Hey, what's up, guys? It's Jake the Metalhead, and today is finally time for my best and worst of the year lists. There were a couple of changes to both lists, and I added on a couple of albums that I didn't review this year. So, the reason that being is because I got into a lot heavier stuff towards the end of the year, and you'll see on my best of the year list. So, with that being said, let's get the pain out of the way first, and let's do the worst albums of the year, starting with... Okay, so this end of the year list for the worst albums is a little different compared to the other ones, as I normally have 5, but there weren't exactly like too many bad albums this year, but I still have 3 to cover. For my number 3 spot, I chose Manic by Wage War. This album wasn't terrible, but it still wasn't anything to like get excited about. There were like 2 good songs on this thing, and the rest of it just either ended up being subpar or just laughably bad, like the title track Manic. When the verses hit, straight up had me laughing my ass off. I'm not even joking about that. So yeah, for this thing just being underwhelming for what the singles offered, for this thing just being underwhelming, that's the reason why it's on my number 3 for the worst of the year. Number 2 is Still Sucks by Limp Bizkit. Do I even really need to say anything else? Like, for real, it's Limp Bizkit. Were you expecting something good from Limp Bizkit? There's like one good riff on here and like one good actual song, but other than that, it's a Limp Bizkit record. But this is still not at number 1 because this one I at least was able to laugh at and I at least had some fun with it because at least Fred Durst is still rapping some whack-ass bars. So I at least got to have a good laugh at this record. But number 1 is number 1 because it just fucking hurts. Number 1 is, take a wild fucking guess of what it is. Okay, enough time. It's You're Welcome by A Day to Remember. This one just sucked because it was so delayed. They got signed to Fueled by Campbell Chicken Noodle Soup. The singles were bad. Well, not even just bad, the singles were just like iffy, like This Generates was bad, Resentment had a pretty decent breakdown, Mind Reader I think was just okay, and then they released the whole album and it was just a jumbled mess of a bunch of ideas just thrown at a wall, and none of them just stuck for me. Not even like the heavier songs off this record, like This Is Your Last Chance to Dance, I think it's called. None of the heavier songs and none of the softer songs stuck for me at all. Like, I ended up really resenting this record. Ha! See what I did there? Resenting? Ha! Get it? Because it's a fucking pun on one of the songs? Ha! Funny! Okay, anyways. Yes, this record just hurts just because I know Adtr can write so much more good stuff. It's just the fact they got signed by Fueled by Campbell's Chicken Noodle Soup. So, yeah, You're Welcome by A Day to Remember is the worst album of 2021 for me. Okay, now that my pain and grieving is over, let's get to my best albums of the year, starting with number 10, which is Eternal Blue by Spiritbox. Now, these guys would have been higher. Hell, my entire list probably would have been higher if I didn't have to rework it and add shit closer to the top of the list, which you'll see as we get closer to the top. But Spiritbox still managed to deliver a great record full of great choruses. Courtney LaPlante has a fucking incredible scream to her, as well as an incredible singing voice as well, and the rest of the band behind her is just phenomenal. They are all phenomenal musicians. They made something heavy and something unique. It still managed to stand out, and it's still, I would say, pretty accessible to people just getting into metal. So, that being said, Spiritbox is at number 10 with Eternal Blue. Number 9 is Calling Culture by Vexed. These guys managed to deliver an absolute banger, which not only has great lyricism and great musicianship, but is also heavy as shit. For this and Eternal Blue, I am still extremely impressed that these guys managed to make such a heavy ass record, especially like with a female vocalist who can do not only like just regular like high screams and mid screams, but can also go really fucking low with the gutturals too. I've known about Vexed and Spirit Box for quite a while now, but they still managed to impress me with just how good their vocalists are. So yeah, number 9 is Calling Culture by Vexed. Number 8 is one I was going to review, but I never really got the chance to before the year ended. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Collapse by Design, the debut record from New Jersey-based progressive metalcore band Sentinels. Need I say more? This album is heavy, brutal, technically sound, and their lead vocalist has the perfect voice to match it all. This record I would describe as if the Ghost Inside listened to a bunch of, I would say probably Meshuggah or even Gojira, and was like, yeah, we want to make that type of record. Just crazy tempo changes and crazy time signatures while still being really heavy and also having some classic beatdown grooves to it. And yeah, Collapse by Design by Sentinels is my number 8 spot. This is where the changes really start to come in. So number 7 is A Tear in the Fabric of Life by Knocked Loose. Now yes, this is an EP, and yes, it is just under 20 minutes, but I do recommend giving this thing a couple of spins if you got the time. This thing is heavy, this thing is fast, it is brutal. This thing was getting me so hype when I was listening to it. This thing just is so much fun, and I loved the hell out of this EP. Therefore, I have Knocked Loose, A Tear in the Fabric of Life at my number 7 spot. Number 6 is Iridescent by Silent Planet. These guys a couple years back actually made some very unique sounding metalcore, very abstract with like more experimental elements into it, especially some more spoken word type vocals. And it still managed to be heavy as hell, but now this one has like a little more of that traditional metalcore type structure to it. It still manages to stand out, be unique, and still is pretty much just as heavy as their old stuff, I would say. These guys really did a good job, especially with the breakdowns, and not even just the breakdowns. There were like some really screwy parts in this thing that really got me like thinking, and like really like had to like make me think about where the song was gonna go. For all that and more, I give Iridescent by Silent Planet my number 7 spot. Number 5 is the self-titled record from Darko. This thing is fucking wildin', dude. This thing has breakdowns out the asshole. This thing has some very sci-fi sounding electronical elements to it. This thing at some points made it sound like an alien was speaking to me. And despite all of the insanity, this thing still manages to have a couple of heartfelt songs on it with Donna and Daniel. Like, Daniel straight up made me damn near cry when I first heard it. And also, if that's not enough of a selling point, this band is fronted by the lead singer of Chelsea Grin, and the drummer is the same as the drummer from fucking Spite. So yes, Darko is my number 5 spot. Number 4 was going to be a joint entry, but I decided not to. The original joint entry was supposed to be my actual number 4 spot, and also the new EP from Shadow of Intent, but I decided it should only be like 1 spot. So now you ask, what the hell beat out Shadow of Intent's new EP? I Return to Nothingness by Lorna Shore. Yes, if there's any selling point that you need, go listen to the Hellfire. This song alone is having me excited for whenever these guys put out next in 2022. And I cannot fucking wait to hear what else Will Ramos can do with his voice. So, As I Return to Nothingness by Lorna Shore is my number 4 spot. Number 3 is In the Court of the Dragon by Trivium. This thing managed to be heavier, angrier, faster, and more ferocious than What the Dead Men Say. And not only did it come out only a year after What the Dead Men Say, it's still just as technically sound and still just as intricate as that record is. Trivium definitely used their time wisely through this entire 2021 and the entire 2020 even after What the Dead Men Say was released. They managed to use their time perfectly to create something just as good and something just as intricate enough to make it at least into the top 3 fucking years in a goddamn row. That is saying something. In the Court of the Dragon by Trivium is my number 3 spot. Number 2 is Ice9 Kills with the Silver Scream Part 2 Welcome to Horrorwood. This thing was so much fun. This thing was catchy. This thing had some of the best work that I think we've gotten from Ice9 Kills. And also, this thing had some of the best features of the year on it. Brandon Saylor from Atreyu, Ryan Kirby from Fit for a King, motherfucking Corpse Grinder from fucking Cannibal Corpse. This thing was awesome. It had everything to love about this record and this band, and it ended up being the best metalcore record of the year. But it's not number 1. No. Number 1 managed to come in and blow Ice9 and Trivium out of the water for me. Number 2 is Welcome to Horrorwood by Ice9 Kills. And number 1. But before we get to number 1, I would like to put out some honorable mentions. Number 1 is Lifeblood by Brand of Sacrifice. Roll credits! Oh wait, that's right, I don't have credits. Brand of Sacrifice managed to come in and blow Trivium and Ice9 out of the water for being technically proficient, being absolutely insane, and blisteringly fast. But this thing also managed to have parts in this thing that straight up made me dance when I was listening to it. So this thing combined elements from both Ice9 and Trivium's new record and just made it freaking awesome. Combined them together and managed to make a better record. But not only that, this thing is also number 1 mainly because the breakdowns kept getting slowed down so much they nearly fucking killed me. They nearly killed me with the way these breakdowns were getting slowed down constantly. All of that and more is why Brand of Sacrifice Lifeblood takes the number 1 spot of my list and is the best record of the year. And that was my best and worst of the year albums lists. Be sure to let me know what your favorite albums of the year were in the comments down below. And be sure to leave a like, because I'll know if I get a bunch of views and 0 likes that somebody disliked it. I'll still know, even though YouTube turned the fucking dislikes off. So, therefore, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and turn on the notification bell because I will be uploading, because not only at the time of this recording is Skillet's new album coming out this week, in which I will absolutely clown the new Under Oath, which we will see how that's gonna go, because I've never listened to an Under Oath record before. And my boys in Kaminar requested that I review their new EP, and I will leave a link to their Spotify in the description, as well as whatever else you find in the description for this video. And not only will I be uploading that video, I also have more drum covers lined up. And not only that, if these 2 or 3 or however many I put on screen bands, when they release their record this year, and if these guys down below release their records this year, 2022 will be fucking over for me.